Good morning, everyone. My name is Kyla May Dakanai, and I am the current CSA president. Thank you to all of you for taking the time to be here today and for tuning in to hear the speeches from our president and vice president internal candidates in this year's CSA elections. So each candidate will have about 5 minutes to deliver their speech, and for each position, we will be doing a Q&A for about 20 minutes. We do have a Slido set up for people to submit questions. The information for Slido is right over here, and on the live, we have it pinned in the chat. But yeah, if anybody has questions, feel free to reach out to the elections committee over here on the left. But I will first call up your first vice president internal candidate, which is Divya Singh.
Hello everyone, my name is Divya Singh and I'm a third year student here at the Asper School of Business, majoring in accounting. And it's a great privilege to be running as Commerce Student Association's Vice President Internal for the year 2023-24. And I would like to start off talking about my journey before I get into my campaign points. In the year 2019, I came to Canada as an international student. Thus, I started off my journey by being a student at the International College of Manitoba. It was an adventurous journey because I came off to a different part of the world, from a different part of the world, to make my future here in Canada. And after a year, I got admitted to the Asper School of Business, which welcomed me with its open arms and all the resources and the opportunities. I clearly remember when I first came here to the Drake Center. I felt like this was where I would find the best version of myself. And while joining the CSA, I did not know what it had hold for me in the future. Currently, serving as manager of corporate relations, I have learned lots of valuable skills and, most importantly, how much I care about the Asper students. Commerce Student Association has been enriching the lives of students, for instance, by giving them opportunity to network, meet like-minded people, and above all, to make contributions in the lives of other Asper students. Organizing more than 50 events each year, every year, executives, along with the General Council and all the students, have followed the legacy, and I'm sure this will be followed for many years to come. For many years down the line, the Asper School of Business has fostered an environment of equity, diversity, and inclusion, so that every student of our community feels heard and valuable. And this is the first point of my campaign. I will make sure that the Commerce Student Association stays consistent with its policies and bring any amendments with the changing times. I will work closely with our EDI officer to make sure that the appropriate changes are made and student concerns are being listened to. Furthermore, I will achieve this by implementing human resource policies that focus more on personal skills, abilities, and determination, and not on prior experiences. Next, I will promote awareness by organizing equity, diversity, and inclusion workshops, coordinating more around the same, and then communicating to all the members of ASPER so that creates an environment of unrestricted conversations. Every student who gains something from the CSA is because someone at the right time communicated them the right opportunity. This takes me to the second point of my campaign, engagement. Sometimes there's something which is more suitable to students in their first year and not in the later years. I'll make sure that the right resources are being communicated at the right time. And I know how intimidating it can be to be a first year student here at university, as you're constantly looking out for friends and resources to make your best. I will make sure to communicate the right resources for everyone with the help of first year council and engage the student body to its full extent. As your Vice President Internal, I will make sure to reach out to the Asper students, be it first years, graduating, or international students, so that every student is aware of all the resources that the CSA holds for them. I will make sure to cater the needs of every student from diverse backgrounds and have resources available to make sure that happens. And my last pillar of my campaign is building relationships with the student groups residing within ASPER. Student action groups are such an invaluable part of ASPER School of Business as they help to bring out events specific to each major. I will make sure that these events are accessible to all the students, and I'll support these stags by checking on with them and organizing professional and leadership conferences. And moving forward, if any of these student groups have any concerns, I'll make sure that those are addressed. Lastly, I believe I will find many ways to give back to the ASPER community and will contribute to every student's ASPER journey by being a good individual over a leader who is there to listen to you and support you through all your journey and guide you through the best stages of your life. Thank you.
Thank you, Divya. Next, I'd like to call up your second candidate, Mickael Gier.
Hello? So, good afternoon, everyone. I'd first like to thank each and every one of you who came out today to listen to all our speeches. On behalf of all the candidates, I could truly say how much we appreciate each and every one of your support thus far. To introduce myself, my name is Mickael Gier, and I'm currently a third-year marketing and finance student, and I'm thrilled to be running to be your next vice president internally. If I could sum up my experience with the CSA thus far, I would describe it as transformative. Coming out of high school, I was not the type to get involved, but once arriving in ASPER, there was a multitude of opportunities available that it just felt right to do so. So during the second week of my first year, I made the thrilling decision to run for first year rep. Though I didn't end up winning, it sparked my interest in student involvement and in the CSA specifically. I still got involved with the first year committee as the events co-chair, and then the following year I joined the general council as a graphic designer. But I was also lucky to be involved with the CSA's two charity campaigns, Shine and 5 Days, where I saw the importance of the CSA not just within ASPER, but in the community as a whole. In the past year, I served as Vice President Marketing and Communications, where I saw how the CSA continues to enrich the student experience for all students. But I also saw there were still major gaps that need to be filled to ensure that we serve all students within the ASPER School of Business. And that's why today I'm running as your next Vice President Intern. I'm running on 3 pillars of advocacy, enrichment, and inclusivity. My first pillar is to advocate for the voices and concerns of all ASPER students to ensure that all these concerns are brought up to the faculty. To do so, I want to hold annual general meetings where you can have the opportunity to be made aware of the CSA's progress and have a chance to provide your feedback on our events and services. Aside from this, I also hope to revamp the town hall meetings, as they're a great tool, and having these meetings in a more centralized location like where we are now, providing options to live stream and promoting them in in-class promotions will help to ensure that the outcomes of these meetings best represent the needs and concerns of all ASPER students. Moreover, I want to continue advocating for more financial resources to remove the socioeconomic gaps that remain through advocating for greater resources in conference funding, as well as the continual investment in experiential learning to ensure that these opportunities are available not just for a select few, but for all ASPER students. I hope that through this and more, I'll be a VPI that focuses on the needs of all ASPER students and best represent you. My second pillar is to enrich the student experience through further collaboration with other groups and the continual improvement of the CSA's own practices. Student action groups, or STAGs, serve such a vital resource for students, and to strengthen relationships with these STAGs, it's important to first realize that the work and success of student action groups and the CSA are not independent, but rather interdependent on one another. That is why as VPI, I will hold various check-ins with presidents to understand their strategic goals for the year and see where the CSA could provide support in any way, and also improve on the STAG Startup Conference to better equip leaders to lead their groups throughout the year. The success of the CSA also relies on improving our own practices, and as VPI, I want to ensure we are constantly finding ways to better the experience through exit surveys that gather feedback, modifying the recruitment process to better prepare candidates, and once in their roles, I want to create resources on how to be better leaders so our members can support, encourage, and inspire their own teams. Lastly, I want to focus on providing more recognition to our committees and volunteers through appreciation days and outings. The CSA succeeds because of the people that make up this organization, and I want to be the VPI that is there to support and encourage them along their own transformative journeys. My third and last pillar is focused on including all Asper students through further implementation of EDI initiatives. Coming from a diverse background myself, I understand the importance of EDI, but I know that my journey and my path is not the same experience as everyone else's. That is why I believe in the expansion of the EDI position to create a committee that will not only compound the effect through more initiatives, but will also provide space for more voices and perspectives. With the help of this new committee, I want to hold events honoring Pride here at Asper and hold other initiatives and events that celebrate the cultural diversity that we are so blessed to have. Lastly, I understand the expensive price of a business education and the rising cost that it has become. And as VPI, I hope to lessen the financial burden on students by providing resources to access affordable business professional clothing. Our diverse Asper community is why we thrive, and I want to be a VPI that recognizes this and works towards a more inclusive school for all of you. The CSA works towards enriching the student experience for everyone. I was lucky to be able to benefit from the multitude of opportunities available here, and I want to ensure these opportunities continue to be accessible for more and more students each year. Through my pillars of advocacy, enrichment, and inclusivity, I hope to make a community that is welcoming of all students to create their own legacy. Again, I'm Mickael Gier, and I would be honored to be your next Vice President Internal. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mickael. Lastly, I'd like to call up Nikol Sokolsky to give her speech.
Hi. For those of you I haven't had a chance to introduce myself to, my name is Nikol. I'm a second-year student here at the Asper School of Business, and I'm running to be your next Vice President Internal for the CSA. The university, I want to tell you that before sharing why I think I would be a good candidate for this role, I want to tell you what VPI really is, so you better understand what this position is about, and you know what you're voting for and how it affects you as a student. The VPI will work alongside the President and ensure the strategic vision of the CSA Council is met. The VPI's portfolio includes 2 first-year reps, 2 HR coordinators, an Indigenous representative, and EDI officer. Some of the responsibilities held by the VPI include being in charge of managing recruitment for the CSA exec team, as well as general counsel, managing those relationships between the STAGs, the faculty, and the CSA, and ensuring that the CSA fosters an environment that upholds equity, diversity, and inclusion. I highly encourage you all to check out the CSA website for the full description of these roles for the President, VPI, and Advocacy Rep before you vote next week. So, who am I? I was born in Israel and moved here at the age of 3. At the age of 12, I was set on getting into business school, and at the age of 15, I decided that I wanted to major in actuarial math. Now, at the age of 19, I have decided that maybe I don't want to major in actuarial math, but what I do know is that I want to be your next Vice President Internal. So as I mentioned, I'm in my second year of Asper, and I've been involved with the CSA since my first year through the first year committee as fundraising co-chair, and now I hold the position of case comp coordinator. Some of you may have seen me at ODA, TCW booths, and even come to speak in some of your classes. And if you have, you'll know that I'm energetic, I love what I do, and I'm passionate about what I do. And when I go for something, I do it 100%. And this is what I plan to do with VPI. If you haven't been following my campaign, I want to let you know about my 3 pillars. So my first is education. I want to expand student knowledge and awareness on educational opportunities through experiential learning such as case competitions. What I have learned this year as the case comp coordinator is that at the end of the day, you are in Asper to learn, gain valuable experiences, build your resume, and get your degree in order to secure a job in the future. Case comps can help immensely with all of the above, and I am saying this because I truly mean it. I've been able to see the growth in case comp culture at Asper, and I believe that there needs to be more resources available to understand what Asper can offer you. I believe that there needs to be further advocacy for students who want to participate but find that they're being stopped due to financial reasons. Because there are resources and grants available that students aren't aware of. But on top of that, I believe that there needs to be even more funding than what is currently offered, because I have seen too many students walk away from valuable opportunities due to financial issues, and money should never be an education, a barrier to education. My next pillar is collaboration. I want to further strengthen the relationships with all ASPR students, and work with you, the faculty, and student action groups to ensure an effective and valuable communication line is achieved. I want to hold regular check-ins with stags and committees as often as they and myself would see fit. I would also want to set targets and objectives for each CSA position and create mid-year reviews for CSA Council as well as stags. I have noticed that students go into these leadership roles with such amazing ideas, ambition, and drive, but life happens, assignments and exams begin to pile up. Some of those original initiatives and ideas get lost, and I would want for everyone's goals to be met, and if they can't be met, to understand why, so that the future students who hold those positions can overcome those barriers. With these check-ins, I believe that we can overcome that. And ultimately, through whatever student group or position, I want to be there for you and support all of the ASPR students. My final pillar is inclusivity. I want to foster an inclusive environment on campus and make sure that you feel welcomed and safe. I want to advocate for students in the 2S LGBTQIA+ community, students of all faiths and cultures, and students of all backgrounds and circumstances. Some of my ideas include partnering with Queer and Rainbow Pride Mosaic, which are already established groups at the university, organizing events for Pride Month, creating new workshops and panels where students can learn about the issues facing us in 2023, both outside and inside the business community, and learn how we can address them. After talking with some students, I've also realized and believe that a prayer room in Drake Center should be established because students of all faiths should have a space where they can practice their religion without having to walk across campus. Inclusion should be a right and not a privilege, and I fundamentally believe that. And so with that, I want to thank you for listening to me speak, and my name is Nikol Sokolsky, and I would be so happy to be your next Vice President Internal. Thank you.
Thank you to all the Vice President internal candidates for delivering your speech today. It takes huge courage to do that, and I want to say great job to all three of you. Let's give them one more round of applause, please. Okay, so we will be moving into the Q&A portion. This will be about 20 minutes, and we're going to receive questions through the Slido, which is right over here. And yeah. Awesome. Can everybody hear me through the block rocker? Yes? Yeah. Okay, perfect. So the first question we have through the Slido is, can you expand on any concrete objectives you all want to achieve as VPI? So Divya, you can go first, and then we'll go Mickael and then Nikol.
For me, I would talk about one of my pillars, which I mentioned before, is engagement. I know as an international student, sometimes it gets so overwhelming in the first years to know about more resources. And I remember going to my first business banquet was not because someone told me for this from CSA. It was just because I was in the co-op program, so I want to make sure that all the resources are being used. Maybe just taking help of the co-op advisors, like telling the teachers, the professors here to have more conversations with the student on this.
Yeah, if I could expand on one of my objectives specifically, it would have to be the one about inclusion. So I believe that in terms of EDI, we need to move past just cultural diversity and look towards other forms of diversity as well, such as socioeconomic background. And I think that a struggle right now that ASPR students continue to face is that the price of business education keeps rising and it's not accessible to more and more students. And this is a big problem. That's something that I really want to tackle this year as VPI, is really advocating through the faculty for more resources for conferences and experiential learning to make sure that these programs are accessible to more people, as well as providing people opportunities to buy certain business professional clothing at an affordable price, so that they are able to attain this business education, attain a lot of these self-development programs without having to pay a high price for it.
Yeah, so just to expand on what I mentioned during my speech, so I would want to really make sure to have those check-ins and mid-year reviews for the council members as well as exec, because I know from experience, as I mentioned, people, including myself, I went into my positions with so many different ideas and so many different ambitions, and then me and my co-chair, life happens, we all get burnt out. And sometimes we forget about those original ideas and initiatives that we wanted to implement. And I can see that through other positions as well, that sometimes the original plans aren't always met. And hopefully that being reminded of your initial plans by setting those goals at the start of your term will really help motivate you to have those finished. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you to all the candidates. The next question is, how will you make sure to reconcile and create more awareness about Indigenous concerns? We'll start off with Mickael first.
Yeah, I think Indigenous matters are such an important thing that the CSA needs to focus on, and we've made amazing progress in the recent years, but we still have a lot of ways to go. In terms of Indigenous matters, I'd first ensure that the Indigenous representative and UMICs are the front and center of this issue, because I believe they're the most affected by it. So with any initiative that the CSA does, I really want it to come out of UMICs and out of the Indigenous representative rather than any other position, because they would best know how to ensure that these initiatives are not just for performative reasons, but are actual concrete solutions on how we can better achieve reconciliation.
Yeah, I would also make sure that I would work really closely with the Indigenous representative, and I would make sure that the standards that we want to uphold in terms of celebrating the Indigenous culture is really represented through all of our events, and not just through events that we specifically want to celebrate Indigenous culture. And this includes having a land acknowledgement for all of our events, and making sure that UMICs and the Indigenous representative are there and can help us guide us through the year. Thank you.
In my opinion, I believe having an Indigenous rep is one of the great things, but to make sure that we have more representation of the Indigenous culture, I want to make sure let's say there are some local Indigenous businesses, I would maybe invite them to our events, so to make sure that there is an equal representation from all the cultures.
Awesome, thank you for all your answers. The next question is, what specific issues do you want to address within the CSA, and how do you plan on addressing those issues? We'll start off with Nikol.
So specific plans that I would want to address within the CSA is to make sure that everyone goes into their roles fully understanding what is expected and what their role entails. I can see that there are times where people perhaps go into roles without fully understanding the time commitment and the expectations that are there for them, and that in the end it does hurt the students, because the positions are there for students, and all of the events that we hold and opportunities are for the Asper student body. So I would want to make sure that before a position is given, that the full understanding is there. Thank you.
First of all, I really appreciate how the CSA works, and there's everything written down, and there are all the rules. And I remember having my first transition day where I was given all the information of how is my role gonna be, what can I expect in the next year, and I feel same has to be continued with the student action groups as well. And as much as resources and support they get, I want to make sure that they are into the leadership conferences, and they also attend events, so they are motivated as well.
Yeah, In terms of the CSA specifically, one thing that needs to be changed is that we need to provide greater inclusivity in the recruitment process. And what I mean by this is that looking at the recruitment process in my second year, I was kind of shocked at the depth of answers and information that I was supposed to know during the interview. And then in my third year, when recruiting for people in the general council, I was prioritizing people that had a lot of knowledge already about the CSA, not realizing that they have a lot of knowledge about the CSA because they've been involved already, and we're really penalizing people that want to get involved but have not been aware of the CSA until that exact moment. So what I want to do as VPI is during the interview process, even right when you apply for it and you're waiting for your interview, you're giving briefing questions of start thinking about ideas that you want to think about or want to implement in your position. Start thinking about what you want to see out of your position, and really set expectations for them of what they're gonna see at their interviews. And hopefully through this, we're gonna better prepare these candidates and better analyze people not just on their knowledge of the CSA, but rather on what they want to do in their positions moving forward.
Awesome, thank you, you three. The next question is, can you recall a situation where you demonstrated a characteristic that you believe will help you excel in the VPI position? Mickael, you can go first. Oh, sorry, Divya, actually.
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yeah. So the question is, can you recall a situation where you demonstrated a characteristic that you believe will help you excel in the position of VPI?
So a year from now, I was a person who was so disorganized. I didn't know how to manage time because I didn't had a lot of things on my plate. But at the same time, I was so determined that I want to be part of the student groups and see myself evolving. And I remember just joining the CSA as I knew what my expectations were, but I still need to make sure that I was doing my studies okay, doing my job okay, and also all the things at home. So that's what I learned from my prior experience managing time. And as your VPI, I guess maybe like any Esper student, be it any Esper student or any student here at the CSA, they want to make sure that they do everything right on time, and that's what I have learned in my last year, and I guess that will be continued for the years to come, and also as my participation as your VPI for the next year.
In terms of a specific experience, I would definitely recall in the recent year I've tried to get into case competitions more, and though I kind of entered this realm of the Asper experience at a very late time, I kind of came into it with the notion, I guess, concept that I am a bit behind, but I'm willing to learn a lot of what I need to do to be at the level of other people. And it was a very trying time. I've had to put in a lot of hours for it. But I think this experience of really coming to something completely clueless, but ensuring that you're open to learn and open to gain a lot of knowledge is something that I'm going to bring into the VPI role, because this new experience, though I've had experience on the executive council, is completely different from what I've experienced in the past year. And I know I'm coming into it with the idea that I want to learn more, either through stags, either through the different people that are going to be on the general council. I want to learn from them and really come into this with a new perspective.
Yeah, so I can think of a really recent example, actually. So this year I was the case competition coordinator, and in the fall we hosted a case 101 session, and we made sure that we checked what was done in previous years, and we did what was successful before. And students, they enjoyed it, but we sent out the feedback form, and they said that they wanted to be more involved and participate more. And so 2 days ago, we hosted the winter Case 101 session, and we implemented that change, and we completely changed it up. We got them to break down a case themselves, and it was fully student participation involved. And I think that being able to see the opportunity for change and the need for change is really important as a VPI, and knowing that you don't necessarily have to do just what's been done in the past, and you have to change along with what the students need and what the students want.
Awesome, thank you for those answers. The next question is, in terms of EDI, do you want to place more of an emphasis on creating new EDI-focused events or improving the EDI aspects of the CSA's current events?
I think both, but on my platform specifically, I definitely want to focus a lot more on creating EDI initiatives. As I saw, speaking to different people, there's really an underserved community in terms of the 2S LGBTQIA students here at the Asper School of Business. And the CSA has failed in recent years in providing them more inclusive programming, and I think we need to have much more focus on this and ensuring that, with the expansion of the EDI position to include a committee, we're going to create more initiatives like a Pride Week that'll not only address a lot of the issues of the community, but also celebrate the rich history behind the people in this community. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I completely agree with Michael, and I would say that also mentioned my platform. I would want to possibly partner with groups that are already here on campus, and they could help Asper, groups such as Queer. And I would want to create those panels and information sessions for students to see how these issues are affecting us today as inside the business community as well, because we are business students and this is going to be our future. And I think that's really important for us to be aware of how that is going to affect our future careers and how we can help change the world for better. Thank you.
I would kind of do a mix of both, because there's always room for improvement in anything. So I would make sure that all the events that currently we have, they are improved on, and also to make sure there are more representation in terms of getting more people from indigenous community and the other communities to represent, and there are more fun events to make sure that students enjoy it as well.
The next question asks, how will you better manage the relationships with our student action groups?
Yeah, so once again, I would want to create that communication line almost immediately if I were to get elected. And I would want to have that constant communication and set those constant goals for the STAG so that we can help them achieve what they want to do. And I would want to hear them out, because I know that the CSA helps with their funding, and that's always an issue with deciding who gets to get what, of course. And I would want to make sure that their voices are heard, that they understand what can be done, and I would want to help them in the best way that I could.
As my first year in the CSA and working closely with my executive VPCR, I have realized that they attend lots of conferences and events which actually make sure that they are ready for the role and they are determined and motivated. And I want to continue same with the STAGs as well, because at the end of the day, if you want to rise yourself, you have to lift others. So that's what I really believe in, and I want to continue doing that, the CSA's perspective into the STAGs as well.
So in terms of improving relations with STAGs and helping them succeed throughout the year, I think one of the most important things is first creating that genuine connection at the beginning of the year and having these constant check-ins with these student action groups before funding even comes into play. Because I think at this, what I want to do is really look at what are your strategic goals for the year and how can the CSA support it so we can best sustain your STAGs throughout the year. Aside from this, really supporting them through different initiatives and different things by emphasizing at the beginning of the year with a STAG startup, creating it into a leadership conference that equips them with specific skills of to better, I guess, succeed with their positions and with their STAGs throughout the year. Having these leadership workshops throughout the conference and really equipping them on how to best lead their teams, I think is the most important thing.
Awesome. So we'll go back to Divya for the next question. What do you think sets you apart and makes you the best candidate for the VPI position?
As I have mentioned before, before being a leader, I am a good human. I have been part of numerous service during my high school, and given the fact that I am an international student, I really believe what goes into, like what efforts does every student do, and I want to give my best, and yes, that's it.
Yeah, I think what definitely sets me apart is just my strong commitment to the CSA and wanting to improve this organization to the best that it could be. And this could be seen, in the past 3 years, since my first year, I've been heavily involved with the CSA, and every single year, I've always wanted to continue getting involved and continue to improve this organization for more and more people. And I think this strong commitment to this organization and wanting to improve it is definitely what sets me apart, and that's definitely what's going to drive me in the next year. It's going to be my second year as an exec, and obviously for many that's going to be a crazy thought to have. But I think what's going to drive me is really that strong commitment and that strong, want to see the CSA succeed moving forward.
So I think what sets me apart is that I want to have this position, not to have the title, not because I want to be just on the CSA exec, not because I want to be known as the student leader. I want to do this role genuinely because I want to do what the roles for what the responsibilities for VPI is, and I want to be able to be there for the students. And when I do things, I do it with my heart, and I think I can do that well through VPI. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, so we have time for one last question. And as the three of you have been involved with the CSA, this person is asking, so the CSA is a big volunteer commitment for students. How would you support students to do well academically, but be involved with the student council?
I think the balancing of different responsibilities, I'll never understand how to do it after 3 years. But I think to best support them, just providing resources beforehand of how to best manage your time. I think a lot of people in the council already have ideas on how to manage their time properly, how to balance different responsibilities. And I think consolidating a lot of these advices from different people into one resource for a lot of these new members to come in, read through and really learn on how to balance their own responsibilities, I think will help to ensure that they're able to really balance a lot of their responsibilities and do their position in the best way that they can.
Yeah, so I agree. It's all about balance. I think that everyone has their own limits. When you enter a position, you know what the time expectation is, and it tells you when it says what your position is all about, it says what the commitment level is, so people know what they can and can't do. I also think that I would definitely continue with the GC blackout days, which is where council members take a break away from their responsibilities for a day, and just knowing how you can balance everything is really important, and being able to support the council and all the members in it.
As I mentioned before, time management was one of the greatest things that I learned being part of the CSA. But at the same time, I believe you are never ready for anything, and you don't have time for anything until you have the determination. So I just want to make sure that whosoever joins the CSA and whosoever thinks about getting a position or being involved, just to make sure that they think about why did they started. And also going forward, I want to make sure that every student knows what their priorities are. At the first, obviously academics go first, but at the same time you want to make sure that as you have given the commitment to another position, you take that along, and always make sure that there are some things which are to be done right away and some things which can take time. So just making sure that there's a differentiation, and if you're doing well in your academics, you will be good at your other involvements. So I just want to say that everything goes hand by hand.
Thank you to the three of you for the Q&A. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have left. There were some great questions in the poll, but if anybody has any further questions for the VPI candidates, you can reach out to them through their own platforms and social media. But we're going to do a rearrange here, and then we will do the president's speeches.